Well, welcome back into the mid-Norfolk garden, and we're down in an area of woodland where we've got snowdrops growing in massive drifts under beech and oak trees. And this is a little trick that we showed you I think last year, but it's something you can only do at this time of year. And if you've got access to established clumps of snowdrops or woodland where they're growing, that you're able to have a go with this, it's well worth doing. Now, over the course of winter, when these bulbs have been dormant and hibernating, it's quite common for birds of all sorts to come over and start scratching amongst them. And what you'll find, just sitting on the surface, here's an example, are bulbs like this one that have just been scratched up by the wildlife. And there's another, and would otherwise probably try and get their roots in, but very rarely succeed and end up dying and being dried out over the course of the season. Now, these are ideal free pickings to put in little pots and bring into the house or conservatory or greenhouse if you've got it, for a lovely display of early indoor snowdrops. So I'm going to go pick over this area here. I'm sure I'm probably going to get 15 or 20 of these good sized bulbs already coming into growth, and we'll show you what I found when I've gone over this bit of ground. Just pulling the leaf mould away. These are coming to the surface, sitting on there. Look, another little one there. There's a whole range of sized bulbs coming up here, from ones that are probably last year's seedlings like that, through to decent sized bulbs which will definitely flower this year. More and more as I work over this, you can see just how close to the surface a lot of these bulbs have become. Look at that massive, great big beauty. So 5 minutes work on a relatively small patch, and I've uncovered quite a nice little haul. Well, I've come round onto my little workbench, which is deteriorating into a mossy covering, but actually that's given me a lovely idea. Just look at this beautiful emerald green, and I'm going to try and top dress these with around the bulbs when I planted them. I'm going to put them in this nice old vintage terracotta pot. You can pick these up in most vintage or antiques shops or emporiums, or charity or thrift shops if you're lucky enough. If you can't get old ones, then a nice new one from the garden centre. If you haven't got access to that, then just what is to hand in a plastic pot, they'll do just as well, but they'll just look beautiful planted in this. And just, we're going to arrange them quite tightly, try and get the growths pointing in the right direction, and we're just going to continue to feed these into the compost, just gently placing them on the surface. Any potting compost's probably suitable for these for a season. If you're going to plant them out again, I do like a well drained or loamy type of soil, bit of grit in the base so it's not going to get waterlogged during the course of its growth indoors while you bring these on. Let me just finish this up and then we'll show you how many we squeezed in here in just a second. Okay, so there we go. Not looking too attractive or promising at the moment. What I would say at this stage is, where these have been lying on their side, don't be afraid to plant them in slightly on angles or on their side. You want to try and get the growing tips coming upwards through the compost. So if you cover those over completely, they will risk rotting off. So they will right themselves perfectly well later in the season. Now I'm going to feed a little bit of this compost mix around these bulbs just to secure them on the surface. I'm not going to bury them deep. I'm just looking to cover the majority of the bulbs and encourage all those green shoots to be coming out through the top of the compost. So I'll start feeding it in. I think this is really something I'm going to need two hands for, because I'm going to have to feed some of those shoots up. So let me continue with that and show you the end results in a second. Okay, so here we are. I've worked compost all around these little bulbs, encouraged all the green shoots to be pointing upwards through the compost so that they're getting some light and will continue to grow. And what I'm going to do now is just put a little bit of top dressing of this green moss around them. See if we can work that in. It will help with retaining the moisture in the compost and also make the whole thing look a lot more attractive as these grow away. So let's have a go feeding some of that in. I think I'm going to have to pull this apart and just feed it around the bulbs very, very gently. So here we are, the top dressing of sphagnum moss across the top of the compost actually just helps support those little green shoots upright and works them through the compost while retaining the compost in a nice firm layer on the base. Now I'm not going to bring this in immediately to a conservatory or the house. What I want to do is give those bulbs a real good chance to get their roots down and establish some support mechanism before we give them the burst of heat that will bring them into flower. And these will be perfectly happy outdoors even in frosty cold weather. We're going to give them a really good watering in now, and then we'll leave them outside to grow away for about 1 to 2 weeks, and by that stage they'll be established, growing upwards, and hopefully we'll have some flower buds showing. And at that stage, when you start to see the white in the flower buds, that's the time to bring them in and enjoy them in flower. Thanks for watching.